Braddan, over the last few years, has sort of expanded dramatically in terms of the built-up area. It's now one of the sort of major employment centres for the island. So we felt that we needed something that was going to be providing, you know, a much more inclusive and a wider range of facilities than a small sort of parish hall can provide. So we looked at the demand for various services, etc. You know, we consulted with school children, we consulted with adults, sports groups, you name it, and we came up with a plan whereby we're sort of providing under one roof lots of facilities that you can find elsewhere, but you know, you won't find anywhere else on the Isle of Man that has, you know, the number and different types of activity that we can offer to people within the parish and you know, the wider island. So yes, it's something that will hopefully provide somewhere to go for people from cradle to grave. That's what we're hoping to do.
And now obviously the budget is a little bit of a hot topic at the minute. So the initial budget of 6.7 million went out the window really in February and was lifted to 7.5. So with the extra 3.4 the Commissioners are now requesting, is that on top of the 7.5 that was set back in February?
We started with a project that was about 4 and a bit million.
Okay.
But obviously, you know, by the time we went out to tender, because there was a delay, prices had gone up. We did a value engineering exercise. We took certain costs out, but it didn't really reduce the amount much. It went down to about 6.5 million. So the 3.5 million includes quite a few extra bits that we hadn't originally allowed for, like a new access road, which we might have to build. So yes, the cost will be ultimately somewhere in the region of 9 to 10 million pounds.
Okay, and why has the cost had to go up so significantly from the original budget that was set?
A lot of it was down to, you know, COVID, Brexit, and then of course the Ukraine war didn't help. So before we'd even made much progress, the contractor that was going to supply the roof pulled out. That then meant, you know, finding a new supplier for the roof. The roof was slightly different to the design that had originally been made. So that cost, you know, an extra £250,000 straight off. Steel prices went through the roof as well, so that pushed the price up by another £250,000. So, you know, before we'd even made much progress on the site, that had added £500,000 to the cost. There were then further delays in getting materials and men on site. It's not just an Isle of Man problem, it's a, you know, worldwide problem, you know, or certainly a European problem with trying to find people with the qualifications and the trades that we need for a big project like this, you know, whether it's plasterers, joiners, roofers, people doing soffits, you know, even the ceilings in here, you know, we've had delays with. So yes, with those types of delay, it adds to the cost, you know, the preliminaries that we've been charged, you know, each day mount up, and the biggest problem we've had is because of the delay, we expected to have been open by now, so we would have been having an income. But so we've got a double whammy, costs are going up, the place hasn't been opened, and therefore we've no income coming in. So we've been faced with no choice but to seek further borrowing.
And how was the initial funding raised for this project? Is it through taxpayer or ratepayers, or how has it been paid for so far?
There's no taxpayers' money gone into this. We haven't had any grant from the government. So it's entirely rate borne at the moment, which has obviously been an issue, so that we had to, you know, unfortunately raise the rates last year. Again, we're looking at potentially an increase in the rates next year until we can get that income stream in. You know, we've obviously done quite a lot of budgeting on this, and when the original budget was set, the income streams that we were anticipating would more or less cover the costs of the project. And that hopefully will be the case a couple of years down the line once we again have opened the doors and we've started getting an income.
And now, why is it the job of Braddan ratepayers to provide and pay for this facility?
Well, the whole purpose of rates is to provide services. Therefore, you know, it's easy enough for any local authority to do nothing and it will cost nothing. But that's not what we've been asked for. You know, people are saying, you know, there's nothing to do in the Isle of Man all the time. Well, here we are. There's going to be a fantastic new facility on the Isle of Man that is going to serve both our local residents, plus one of the biggest employers on the Isle of Man, you know, right next door, Nobles Hospital, which has a recruitment and retention problem. You know, we've got staff that are getting really sort of excited about the fact that they're going to have this fantastic facility on their doorstep. So yeah, it's going to be, you know, fantastic news for not just, you know, Braddan residents, but the Isle of Man in general. We've got something that we can really all be proud of when it gets open. For
sure, but if it's going to benefit the island, like residents kind of wide, why will it then be down to just Braddan ratepayers to pay for it?
Well, it won't be, because obviously if you're a user, you will pay for it. So, you know, if somebody from outside of Braddan comes and books the sports hall, uses the gym, uses the cafe and all the rest of it, then they are contributing to the cost of this project. Yes, there's going to be a certain amount of input from the rates, because obviously there's a large borrowing that needs to be repaid. But we're looking at a number of different ways of trying to raise additional revenue. We're looking for sponsors. So, you know, if there's a company out there that wants to have a headline, you know, a sponsorship deal with us so that it's known as XYZ Roundhouse rather than just the Roundhouse, well, we're open to offers there. And we're also looking at, you know, potentially other means of raising the rates in terms of a special rating district, so that we don't actually load it all onto the domestic rate. There's a lot of businesses in here that have relocated from Douglas to Braddan, and their rates bills have dropped dramatically. So we don't think it's reasonable to perhaps absolutely put their rates back up a little bit. They'll still be less than what they were paying in Douglas, but they'll be contributing a bit more to the local community here in Braddan.
And with the Roundhouse assumingly going to be ran as a business, really, how long is it projected to actually make its money back?
Well, that's a good question. You know, until we open the doors, we don't know. You know, we've got projections in terms of, you know, footfall. Again, it was all worked out on the basis of that this would be more or less cost neutral and wouldn't require much of an input from the ratepayer. We're still hopeful within the next 5 years that that would be the case, maybe sooner.